play ads. Alright, well, it seems to have broken, but it's not a big deal. Anyways, start my patch 7.2 patch rundown. So usually before I start my patch rundown, I just talk about what I like to see nerfed. So I'm just gonna go really quickly. Ghosts, I'd like to see Ghosts, Exhaust nerfed. Redemption, Junglers maybe a little bit. I'd like to see all the top 3 bands getting nerfed. LeBlanc, Rengar, whatchamacallit, Camille, and I guess we'll see where it is from there. And I'd like to see AP supports get nerfed, but that's a pretty recent thing. Anyways, I'm like me keep going down. So this is the new Warwick patch. Cool. I went over the champion. It's gonna look cool at least to play. So Akali, our ratio up. Finally reached a stable, though slightly below average state following her change in the assassin patch, giving her core item is being nerfed, or giving more opportunity to not only offset the hit to the Gunblade, but give her a slightly stronger spot than before. So they gave her a slightly higher RAP ratio, but Gunblade got nerfed, so it's probably like a net even, which I guess means that overall it's a very, very slight buff, but it's not going to increase her level of like her strength on her character. I really don't think so. Maybe, maybe there's a death cap build that evolves from Akali, but because she's so melee oriented, you have to at least at some point buy defensive oriented stats, and because of that, you're never going to be able to get like this super big, huge value off of like death cap stacking APs. Anyways, let's keep going down. Darius, passive damage reduced on early levels, Q damage reduced when hit by the handle. So they nerfed his passive, which gives like a ridiculous amount of AD. They nerfed it by 25% at level 1. And he took 10 off of it, and okay, and then it's unchanged at levels 14 to 18, but it's nerfed from level 1 to 13. I can understand why they want to do it, because Darius has this really cheesy opener where you start boots, or like you start whatever, longsword, Dorans, and then you start W and you wait in the bush and you walk up and you just like auto W, auto him, and you do his entire health bar actually in the harass. But I think that I don't really necessarily know if they should nerf this. Like, I think the champion itself should be like a snowball champion from the lane. If you hit with 5 times by autos, you're probably playing like a bad matchup into Darius. I don't think he's necessarily that oppressive, because I think Darius could be really easily dealt with in terms of team fighting. It's just laning is kind of annoying because he's like a pretty premier tank counter at the moment and melee counter, and there's not a lot, like there's a lot of tanks being played at the moment, so he's becoming a lot better because of it. I don't necessarily know if he needs nerfs because of it, but I guess maybe they thought that he did. I'm like indifferent, but I probably should hope that he didn't get nerfed. Also, it does less damage when you don't get hit with the second handle. I think that that's actually pretty bad. I'm okay with a 50% trade-off. I'm not getting hit with the second Q. I didn't think it did that much damage. I think it's only in the really weird situations, or the situations where he gets 5 stacks, where he resets, or gets 5 stacks, where his Q damage is actually really, really big. And I think putting it to 35% is actually a huge nerf. Like, all the champions that can dash into him, stuff like Riven, and the Bruisers will even be even better at dealing with this champion 1v1. I don't necessarily think it's needed at all, especially if they're in nerf hemorrhage already in the first place. Seems really maybe too much for Darius. But I don't play Darius much, but at least I think it's a little bit too much. Gragas, right now, the jungle is missing a lot of AP options. So outside of, I think, Elise and Zac, really there aren't many strong AP options to jungle anymore. Eve is okay. Fiddlesticks is pretty bad. Generally, all the best top tier junglers are physical damage. Usually I like being in the meta where there's equal physical damage and magic damage junglers. That means that you can then look to play like different types of like damage top laners and mid laners. When you're in the meta where primarily you're only playing physical damage, either tops or physical damage junglers, you tend to limit the amount of champion diversity in the game, which I dislike. So buffs to Gragas, which is more like an AP magic damage tank jungler, or just magic damage jungler in general, is really nice for me. Also, I was known for my Gragas a long time ago, and I've always had like kind of a soft spot for the champion. So they buffed his passive and his base armor. I think it's really good, actually. 29 armor is quite a bit early, and his percentage health got buffed by 50%, meaning that every Gragas is just going to be running health scaling yellows if they weren't already. and the value of health becomes better, and the value of visage becomes better as well. I think it's gonna be a good what should we call it, tank jungler after this. I think it's still awkward to use his ulti. I don't really enjoy doing it, but I mean, I guess you just have to get used to it at this point because they just changed it for the better, I guess. Moving on, Graves. What is this? Graves refreshes off any instance of damage. So what is this? Is refreshed by Graves' basic attacks and spells against non-minions. Wait, isn't that already what happened? Oh, it's what happened before in the last patch. Removed it and it's coming back. Okay. Anyways, this is like a very slight buff. It's fine. You're able to maintain your true grit longer, which is really nice, but it's not going to really affect Graves' play, in my opinion. Katarina, E ratio down. So they nerfed the ratio by 0.15 total AD. I don't think this is what they should have done. So when I think of Cat, they already kind of pointed the whatchamacallit, a Gunblade nerf. So maybe those are the two things they're going with Cat. But I think of Cat as a champion that probably needs a nerf on their passive. Either that or make her passive more visually clear. So the biggest problem with Cat at the moment is not so much like her damage is really high. You can consistently get all-in kills at level 3, but it's just that it's not very clear what the range of her passive is from the dagger on the floor. And the reasoning is because of this. Here, hold on. We're gonna go get old school here. So I'm gonna take out MS Paint for this because I really don't know how else to explain this. So this is the initial Cat dagger, and we're just gonna fill this in because sure. So when the dagger falls onto the ground, usually what happens is as the character you end up standing like right here. You know, you think you're safe next to the thing, to the thing, and then there's minions like all over the place. Whatever. You think you're safe because you're outside of the visual on the dagger. But what happens is when Cat shumpos to the edge of the circle, she extends the overall range of the passive, and this is what really gets people like confused. And why you need to play a lot of games against Cat to really understand like what her range is, or a lot of games as Cat to understand what her range is. So like if she decides to shumpo, God, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna put like a square. We're gonna make it if she decides to shumpo like right here at the very very edge of her whatchamacallit, of the circle for her passive on the ground, what happens is the circle then reorients over the passive on the ground, and thereby hitting you. And you initially thought, okay, man, I'm outside the range, but that's not how it works. The passive resituates on the Katarina if she decides to, or wherever she shumpos in the direct circle, all the filled in circle right here. I think this is a really big problem. Like, I think the Cat's overall effectiveness will decrease the longer she's in the game, and it would just be nice if there was visual clarities for her enemies that this is a possibility. And if that was possible, then I don't think she would be as good as she is, because I think at the moment a lot of people are dying to like really bad all-ins from Cat, and that's just because there's a lot of confusion on just how big her hitbox on her passive is. Anyways, I think that's like one of the major problems with Cat. If they fix the visual clarity, then they can see if the damage is really the reason why Cat's the problem. I'm gonna go ahead and delete this, and this is awful, so I hope I never see that again. On top of that, I think that if they were going to nerf something, nerfing the damage on her E seems not the place to do it. Maybe it's just because, I guess it's okay, because the way they see it is that in any specific all-in, you're gonna E onto someone at least 2 times, which means that you essentially take a 0.3 AD total scaling deficit, and they're still committing on the passive damage being as it is right now. Maybe, and so the idea is that it does less single target damage, but still maintains her AoE, which I can understand. I guess we'll just see how these nerfs happen. I don't think this will really matter for Cat. I have to go see how big the Gunblade nerf is later down in the patch notes, but this just seems like it's not going to make her early laning worse, that much worse, because this only matters like really like after or like on your Gunblade buy or after your Cutlass buy. It might make the value of Cutlass before Revolver worse, but most Cats were going Revolver in the first place, outside of maybe some with really good gold value backs. Anyways, I don't think this is going to change much about Cat's relative power, but let's see the Gunblade nerf before I say anything else. Let's keep going. Lulu. So they made her passive damage increase, and they decreased the cost of her Glitter Lance. So I think that's really nice. The only thing that I'm really scared about Lulu, because Lulu is always a champion that, if you're making an assassin meta, you don't want Lulu to exist, because Lulu just dumpsters assassins. Her entire kit is based around saving her allies, ceasing the enemies that dive, and giving like her wild growth, whatever target you want to save. So she is the ultimate savior champion that also tends to be like using a lot of hyper carry comps. I don't like her existence when you're trying to buff assassins, and if she becomes meta, I used to play them mid-world where Lulu was the first pick in every single game for 2 seasons. That was not fun to play and not enjoyable for me, a person who likes to play assassins a lot. At the moment, Lulu's actually pretty good right now as a specific Malzahar counter pick in support. I'm hoping that these buffs will keep her down there. These are actually really big early level buffs. Those will mean a lot more toward the bottom lane, where an extra 6 damage on autos could, when you stay lower level due to like you splitting the XP bot lane. So hopefully these are buffs more oriented toward the support role. I think she could use a little bit more love there, but I'd be cautious of giving her too much, because I think eventually Riot's going to nerf these mage supports, and Lulu might come up as a support that rivals Karma, so to speak. And that might be really bad, just because, again, she's just really strong. That buff is, and Ken in my chat says that buff is enough for you to play Lulu into Karma, actually. And that kind of scares me, because, man, if Lulu is that top tier, playing assassins, my life becomes a little bit more frustrating. Anyways, let's keep going. So Master Yi got Double Strike no longer fizzles if a first unit hits a creep. Meditate pauses E and R duration and stacks Double Strike. Sick. Oh, I read these this notes on Reddit before, and this is it's like the post on Reddit said, this is a really good way to buff Master Yi without actually buffing his numbers. They're just making it so that his Double Strike, like his passive always activates rather than like frustratingly just disappears on a dead unit. And you're able to maintain your uptime on both your burst rotation if you decide to use your defensive cooldown. I think this is a really good way of Riot to buff the champion by fixing just a little bit of how his kit works. I really like how the way they did this. And it's nice buffs. Won't make him super OP or any of that, but it'll make Master Yi players very happy. Nidalee. So I know a lot of people think Nidalee is pretty bad, and I don't think she's that good after the Strength of the Ages nerf. She really crushed on that, but this is a champion that's really frustrating to play against. So if she becomes remotely meta and becomes the best jungler, then no other jungler can compete due to her mobility and insane wave clears. So I'm okay with them buffing her, but you just have to be really, really careful. Like, really, really careful. So they increased her base health by 30, which is really nice. Like, again, part of the reason why she became unviable was due to the fact that she can't take Thunderlords that well, and she was really, really good at using Strength of the Ages. And another one is new Bushwhacker are now invisible, have 3 health, disabled by control wards, and there's a maximum amount. Oh, that's really weird. I guess it's supposed to limit what you could do when you're first clear. So they're trying to make it so, or like your initial clears with Bushwhack. I think that's okay. And then the minimum heal on her Primal Surge got increased by, what is that? 10 to 20? I think that's nice. These are very, very small buffs, but any larger buffs I'd be scared of where Nidalee is. I think She was one of the champions that allowed a physical damage mid solo laners to be played. So I'd like for maybe, again, AP junglers to come back a little bit here and there, Gragas, Nidalee, but just be a little bit careful with how strong some of these champions can be. Because I've seen a world where everyone first picked Nidalee for full seasons. I don't want to go back to that world. Okay, Yasuo. So Yasuo got nerfed. So they're not okay with how fast he has to be to dodge stuff and the damage that it takes to do it. Okay, they ended up nerfing his sweeping blades, which is pretty big because it has a percentage increase on damage overall. Okay, and it's pretty much a flat nerf from the champion. Decreases his damage a little bit. I'm okay with this. I don't really think it'll affect Yasuo too much. It does suck for people who used to max E, but they'll probably put in some points into Q now for more, I guess, for like and maybe even in range matchups, and it just changes a little bit about how Yasuo skills. I'm not quite sure because I don't play much Yasuo, so overall this just seems like a small nerf. It might suck to play a little bit, but it's not going to change the people who play the champion. It won't necessarily fluctuate his win rate up and down too much. Oh, it's Sentinel. Thanks for resubbing for 4 months. And dude, good luck tomorrow. I actually hope you guys do well. Lethality. Let's talk about this stat. So, lethality is a really weird stat to me because at first I thought it was a lot better than people thought. Then I thought it was a lot worse than people thought. And now I'm kind of don't know. So, I had no problem with Armor Pen. Let me first state that. But they decided, you know what, Armor Pen's too OP early game. I hate that you can stack armor, and I can kind of understand that, but I'm also just like, why can't people just buy cloth armors, But I guess that was really difficult to do, Sometimes deviating your build path was frustrating to do. However, I mean, everyone else did it. I didn't think it was that bad, but so they introduced lethality, and right now they're making it so that it starts at 60% of its value as flat armor pen rather than 40, which means that it gets a really big buff, like a 50% buff at level 1. This might make me use more lethality runes. This increases the relative effectiveness of champions who stack lethality, champions like MF, like Talon. I'm certainly going to have a lot of fun playing Talon and Zed as well. I don't know necessarily how important this is, but I guess you overall see like a damage increase of like, I would ballpark maybe like 5% or something off your first Yomu's buy, which is a pretty good buff for all the people who go Yomu's. Anyways, I'm kind of interested on this, and this might make me run lethality and runes again, but I'm unsure how effective it will be. Duskblade. Whoa! Oh, the buff. The buff got increased by 25 flat damage. Sure. I didn't think the item was very good. I did skip it on Talon a lot because I really like Cleaver instead of this. And so it's nice that they realize that it needs more damage. I think there are some champions that can abuse it really hard. Like stuff like Talon with multiple invises can get like an insane amount of tree damage off of it. But I think most Talons are going Cleaver anyways. Because it doesn't really give you defensive stats. Doesn't give you flat health. So people are skipping this a lot for Cleaver. It seems like this now with the new lethality buffs, this might be a lot better. Edge of Night. I don't know why this needs to be 30 seconds. I think 45 seconds is already really low. 30 seconds is just like, I feel like Riot's just like, okay, you guys need to learn how to use this item. This item does exist. You have to use it. Please buy this item. And then like after a season or so, they're just going to nerf the item back to 45 seconds. Because 30 seconds is a really, really low cooldown. Really low cooldown. I like 45 seconds personally. With 45 seconds, I still use Yomu's to run out of base because I can have it back up like 20 seconds after reach the lane. With 30 seconds, it's just like I don't know. It feels incredibly low. Hextech Gunblade, active reduced at early levels, so it starts at 175 to 250. Really, I don't really know many people who go Gunblade outside of Katarina. It's probably the only meta champion that goes Gunblade a lot. And Corki, I think this will make it so probably the Corki build pass with Gunblade start Trinity and then go Gunblade like they used to rather than some people who are rushing Gunblade right now. Aside from that, Cat will probably still rush this item. It lost 75 damage, but Doesn't really matter. The stats it gives are still really, really good. Really good. So I don't see myself changing my build path to Ludens or anything like that. I'm still going to get this item because it's just solid. It's really solid. Redemption. Okay, this item's broken. Let's be real. But what did they do? They took... Oh, okay. So redemption is weaker at lower levels, at lower target levels, which is really nice. Thank God it got nerfed by 70 flat at level. I mean, no one gets this at level 1, but that's so nice. And it lost 100 health, which health is much more important than mana regeneration. Mana regeneration typically becomes like a dead stat for supports, especially when they end up roaming out of lanes. So even though they may have switched the item efficiency up and down, having 100 less health matters a lot. Thank God too. This item is ridiculous. It's still probably get bought a lot, but I'm at least happier that they nerfed it. Knight's Vow, they decreased the cost of it down. I did think this was really expensive, even though the build path is super nice. Like if you look at the build path, I think it's double bracer and something else. Even with the combined cost was so expensive that I felt really bad building it. However, with the nerf to redemption and the buff to this, there will be niche situations where Knight's Vow is really good. And I think it should be good. It's like what you do when you're looking to protect one carry really, really hard against like a team with decent amount of armor. And I think that this should fulfill that niche. Unfortunately, redemption kind of takes the super powered support item to the next level, but with redemption nerfs, maybe you'll see more Vow, especially after the combined cost. Eye of the Equinox. They increased the total cost by 100, but gave it 10. Wow, that's actually so nice. Almost any support will pay for 10% CDR for 100 gold for 10% CDR. Wow. As a melee support, you never finish this item. Like you never finish this item because what's the point? You just sit on like the base item and rush redemption, and you might still do that. However, at least there's a good trade-off for being able to find like a really slot efficient item like Eye of the Equinox. You're able to get like this 6 CDR on top of it. Yeah, melee supports aren't very good right now, so this is something that really helps out melee supports to be able to hopefully come back alongside Knight's Vow. And I don't think it's going to happen until they nerf AP supports, but when they do, these items will help like the melee supports come back immediately. Outside of Kench and Tarek, of course, because those two are seeing some level of play. Ardent Sensor and Health Buff now scale with target's level. I didn't think there was a reason to buff this item. I think that Ardent Sensor is a fine item, situationally good item. It's just that Redemption was so good that all the other support items suck in comparison. However, this Sensor got a huge buff. Like it goes from 20%, almost up to another 15% more attack speed, which I don't think necessarily that it was even that bad before. See now it can AoE. So of course, Redemption just got buffed. So I'm scared that they buffed Ardent Sensor too quickly because it wasn't seeing much like play. I definitely don't think that it needed this early before they saw how Redemption stacked up with the rest of the crowd, I guess. Chalice of Harmony. So MR got increased. That's cool. So Grail users, Crucible users will get a little bit more MR. Very, very small change. It's nice. That's it. It's just a little bit nice. Ken says, Ardent Sensor is the third item on support if the team has more than one range auto attacker. Yeah, I think it's super good. Like, it's just that Redemption was way too good, so you had to pass up everything for it. And now, items like Crucible, which, by the way, was always a good item, and Ardent Sensor are going to be bought a lot more on these range carries, and they're going to be just as good as they used to be. Anyways, I guess that's it. There's no nerfs onto any of the champions I wanted to see nerfed. Like any of the most problematic ban champions. So let's just look at the red side. What does the red side always ban in 10 bans? They ban Rengar, they ban LeBlanc, they ban Camille. I've heard from the Riot developers, they tweeted that all three of these champions would be next patch because they didn't have competitive data to work on this patch with it. But it's going to suck waiting 2 weeks for that patch to come out, I guess. It's okay. Anyways, let's go to jungle timing. So what happens? They spawn 3 seconds later. Oh, laners who leash will now pay the cost of missing a minion. Oh, I don't even know if I like this. I like the idea of the jungle starting later. I like the idea of them not being forced to leash every time, but a lot of junglers can't jungle without leashes. And this might make the better junglers just way better. I don't know. I don't jungle enough to be able to tell how good or bad this change is. Let me keep reading. Camp damage. Whoa! Hello? Gromp now gets buffed to 25 damage. Decreases over the first 50 to 50. So decreases is still above the other one. First 2 attacks, and then Ancient Krug now hits for... Honeyfood's spawn window now spawns between 6 minutes. Well, this decreases the viability of champions who are able to jungle. Being able to give them worse leashes and the fact that the camps do more damage means that you're not going to see much lower, like super low tier junglers because they just can't clear safely. If you're going to try to clear camps and you're low health, the other junglers are going to invade your ass and beat you. So it's worse for lower meta or lower tier junglers. It might be better for competitive play. I don't know if I necessarily like this change though. I would need to wait till I experience it a little bit. Okay. And honey fruit spawning later is kind of awkward, but I don't really think... It probably impacts the solo lanes more than the junglers to some extent because I used to always look for where the honey fruit was when I was playing some of the lanes. Hungry Scuttlers. Scuttlers now eat nearby honey fruit. If you kill them while they're eating, you have no... Why would they even do this? Makes no sense. Yeah, maybe the value of Hunter's Potion now increases in effectiveness due to these the camps doing more damage. But it just means that the junglers who don't have to buy Hunter's Potion are going to be even better. So you can see how it's really hard to balance the jungle, at least for high-level competitive play. But yeah, this is super random. I don't know what this is for. Courage. Oh, whew! I'm very happy about this. Courage of the Colossus got nerfed. So the shield duration got nerfed. And oh my god, the base shield, holy the base shield got nerfed to 3. And the cooldown already got nerfed last patch. So, I'm glad this is, okay, so now you have a delineation between a laning mastery and a mastery that's built for team fights. Courage of Colossus is no longer the mastery you go to lane and team fight, okay? I think that's really nice. So... Grasp, for instance, will probably now be what tanks take top lane because this got nerfed really hard. However, there will be certain situations where you're playing matches where you might want Courage of Colossus. You're playing like a support matchup where Courage of Colossus is still not bad because, as you remember, supports have 2 people in the bot lane, so they can get more shielding out the Courage of Colossus in lane than top laners. This might be too big of a nerf, but I'm happy to see less Colossus in the game because I think it makes some tanks just stupidly obnoxious. Looking at Maokai, looking at Poppy, looking at Nautilus. This base shield increases to per enemy champion. Wow, 270 per enemy champion. I just realized it makes it better in team fights. If you hit multiple really? Yeah, I guess it's really did turn into a team fight mastery. So I could see this being taken by like Tarek and Braum and stuff bot lane as opposed to taking much top lane anymore. Let's keep going. Summoner spells, Ghost. Right now, people are using Ghost in the same way as Flash, a snap reactive spell in sticky situations. Ghost has its place avoiding incoming gimmicks, but shouldn't be as effective. I agree. Ghost movement speed now ramps up over the first 2 seconds rather than activating immediately. Yes, that's really good. I would have preferred a cooldown nerf, but this is, I guess, a step in the right direction. So mid laners don't just take Ghost and then randomly just run away from a gank, because that's what I do all the time. Not very happy about this. This is definitely more used more toward like an initiation spell rather than anything else. And I prefer it that way. I would also prefer the cooldown nerf, and I would prefer the exhaust nerf, but I'll take what I can get. League client update. I don't use the League client, so I'm just hoping eventually the League client becomes so good that I'm just forced to use it. Recording highlights. Add the ability to toggle your video quality for recording highlights from your play. Okay. Rotating game modes. Nexus Siege. Whew. I don't care. I'm sorry. I'm not real big on other game modes that aren't ranked or aren't Summoner Swift, so my opinion on Nexus Siege is not very important. And then a lot of bug fixes. I usually never read these because it's just like a really long list. I don't know what's important, what's not. Overall, that's pretty much it. I give the patch. I think it did a lot of good things, like nerfing Redemption, buffing Lethality, buffing to some extent like nerfing Graves, buffing Gragas. But I think it really missed a lot of the key things that makes the game frustrating to play right now. I also have nerfing Courage of Colossus and Ghost. And so I'm hoping that next patch is where they kind of kick it into gear. They nerf like the really high tier, always banned champions, and they make the bot lane, like the number one thing I'm looking at is you gotta make the support meta better, because it's just really boring. I don't want to be playing AP mages in the support meta, and the AP mages get like 8 bajillion. Not only do you get 2,000 gold every game from their support item, they also just they do damage, and that's apparently the most valuable thing. Like, I think it's so bad. But yeah, I guess that's it. I'm gonna play some ads and go back into the game. See you guys in a bit.